Hey everybody, hope you had a great trading day. So we're going to jump right into it. I've got about 20 stocks that we're going to go through. Usually it is, us just looking at what transpired in the market today. There were some blow-ups, obviously, DIDI, but there were some really solid breakouts too, and you're starting to see that money move right into large caps, which we've been talking about. So this video is going to encompass about 20 stocks that are actionable, in my opinion, one way or another, either to buy or sell or setting themselves up. I get about 100 requests per social media platform. So between Reddit, Twitter, YouTube, I get a ton of them, the emails. So I try to limit it to 20 a day out of the 300 or 400 that I get, and I try to find the most actionable. So if you don't see your name on here, it doesn't mean I didn't get it. It just means that it just doesn't seem like it's actionable today. Very well could be actionable tomorrow. So let's just get right into it and start at the very beginning. AMD, this is one we have in from the newsletter at $94. So let's just see what's going on here. To me, I really didn't see anything at all that I would need to concern myself with or worry about. This is really what AMD does. You break out and then you start coming back down. And really the reason I have this up here is just to kind of show this. I was looking at this today and still haven't hit a higher low. And let's get rid of that arrow. Still haven't hit that lower low, have we? Right? So if we clone this line and just pop it back in, you can kind of see where you're at. You kind of have a little channel going on right there. There's very little to worry about here, right? I mean, I just don't see the need. I mean, I just don't see the panic at all. The fact that you're having the volume accelerate is exactly what you want to see as well. So I just don't see any reason to, they're not going to go up every single day. And this had a very nice move out of that base right after getting above the 200-day and then just kept going. So I really don't see any reason to worry about it. Let's take a look at the weekly and you can see exactly that level and what we're shooting for here. So overall, if we look at the SOX, which is the Philadelphia Semiconductor Index, we look great. So I really don't see a reason here for concern. I do see, the opportunity that on some pullbacks here, if we get them, if you get pullbacks back to the low of this, that would be great. I don't know that we're going to get them. I don't know that we're going to get this gap filled in. I'm not sure that that's going to happen. So not with the way that this broke out and the volume that it broke out with, but if that does, I would be looking to add. And if this consolidates for a little bit more coming across, I don't like adding when they're going up like this because I don't like rising wedges. Rising wedges usually end with something coming down, but if we could hang in there and trend up and then maybe base, I'd look at adding onto that. So Amazon just had an amazing day. I mean, there's not, it's about time, frankly. And let's just go through this. Let's shrink this down. And this is from the newsletter. Let's put that over here. And let's just shrink this down to this. Now, what's interesting about Amazon is that you have a base that's been building since about June, right? And out of that base and that building, what do we have? You have a breakout finally. I mean, you finally have a breakout on above average volume. It's very clear that you have a breakout. So I would expect this to continue. You could have some kind of pullback associated with it, but I do expect this to continue to move on up. And this is the beginning. This is not the end of the move. This is one day. So why everyone's all excited, because we're up 4.5%. This is one day. I fully expect this to go a lot higher. I mean, let's get rid of all these horizontal lines. Let's get rid of everything here. And let's just focus on a couple things. You have a channel here that is just absolutely enormous. Let me just draw this way. I mean, it is beyond enormous where this can go to. So, and it's been basing for a year. So it has that potential to actually do this. Now, if you look at this on the weekly, right here, just look at this on the weekly. And we'll drop this down. And we can actually even go from these points up right? So you can see how you're flipping. Hold on, let me get to it. You can see how you're flipping this one, which is really what you want, right? Now, look at this. This is why it's so important to use weekly charts as well, because you can get a better understanding. So from here, flipping this and breaking through that old channel line, finally, which we've done today, right? So we've tried before and failed, kept riding the line, never breaking it, tried up here and then just rejected. Getting up to here right now has put you at 4,300 if we did it today. And you'd still be in the channel. So I think this has just massive potential, and I think people aren't fully understanding it. I think people are looking, oh, it's had such a big move already. This could be a monster. This could be very similar to what you saw with Tesla, where, you know, everybody thought at 1,000, that was it, and then all of a sudden it tripled. So this has a lot of potential, and I would strongly recommend looking at it. So CVNA was just a big winner last year. I guess everybody was running out and just buying cars online. I know a lot of people moved to the suburbs. Maybe that's what drove it, but either way, it is what it is. But it's just been an absolute, utter monster. Now, if we can leave these moving averages in, but let's take them out for a moment and just look. So here's your base. You pulled back down, tested your base, and now you're trying to break out. But you didn't break out yet. And as a matter of fact, you rejected. And there's nothing wrong with that. It just means that you're just not ready yet. We can get this out of the way and put this straight across so we can get a real clean line. So that's really what we need to see. You need to break this level. Let's just check it. So this has us at 323.39, 322, 319. So there you are. I mean, it's pretty clear where you're at. You're right here. You have to break through this. So 323.50 is what you have to get through. I kind of like that when you try, come back, and then try again and break through. It usually has a better chance of working. I see no reason to think that this isn't going to work. My only concern is that my volume is very light. So if you look at this on the weekly, you can get rid of these indicators. You can see this enormous channel that's here. Right? Here, let me just do it this way. See how this channel line's right there? You can actually draw this up and get out of that anomaly here, right? Those 2-3 weeks. So you're following this trend. And then what we could do is click on this, clone it, and just lie it up here and see if that fits in, if that line makes sense. And it does. And then you can see where you're at. So this has a shot up to like 367. I mean, this can run. But really what you're going to have to see first, and again, this is CVNA and this is the weekly, you got to get through that 322. We're just going to call it 322.50 on CVNA. So I do like the space. It's been a hot space to say the least, but you know, you had a little pullback here in June. I mean, it got absolutely hammered and then came right back. I don't know if that was earnings. Yeah, that was earnings. So you're coming into earnings again, looks like August 11th. So you have time. You have time before you have to concern yourself with that. And we can take a look here and see how it's been acting. Yeah, sometimes it does great on earnings, other times not so much. So we'll see how it does, but I do like this trade and I see what you're looking at. DIDI was just a big disappointment, to say the least. So we're just going to go through this just so everyone can kind of get an understanding. You know, you came in and this is where you closed and you thought everything was great. And then you came into this today. So the only thing I would say is this, for those that are playing it, you have very small windows here with gap down, then another gap down. I mean, you have a broken IPO, right? The IPO is at the 14 level. To me, I think that they're going to come out, solve this issue that they're having with China, and then the stock's going to go back up on that. We just need to wait for that to happen. As always, please subscribe to this channel. What we go over here is extremely timely, and we do notifications as well. and do a lot of live shows. So if you want to be aware of those, you have to click the subscribe button as well as the notifications button. But you see this 1250. So we got through that at the end of the day. I mean, that's what you want to see. You know, you get a nice move here. Let's see if there's any volume behind that. Yeah, I mean, huge volume spike. People wanted to be in it at the end of the day. And candidly, that move makes sense to me. Let's get rid of these lines just to clean it up. Because think about it. Their thought process is, you know, we could get news overnight. And they could. They could get news overnight that this is fixed. And we could go from there. And you could see, you know, you could see a decent move. So it's not something for me. I mean, at this point, we're just speculating. You know, we were in a trade. The trade didn't work. On to the next one. But what do you do now with it? I think it's pretty clear that this is your drop dead level. I mean, it's probably not going any lower than this, right? I mean, that's probably the end of it. So you just stay with it. Just stay with it and see what's going on. And there's not really much more to do or say. JAKK. Let's throw in these moving averages on this one. The first thing I note about this one, it's not one that I play with. The very first thing I notice is I just have no volume whatsoever. Nobody's paying attention to this like they were. So that's somewhat troubling. You know, look, I run up, I reject. I run up, I reject. Now let's go over here. Okay. I run up to this level and I reject. I reject it here, I reject it there. How far back do we go to reject this level? So this goes all the way back to this break. So that tells you exactly what bar is in charge, right? So this red bar right now is in charge. And it's ever since we sold down that day on 1332, 1332, you have not got to close above this. And this, for those that are following along on mobiles that sometimes can't see the numbers, or the letters rather. So that's what you're dealing with. Now, this has a long history, so we'll do a weekly on it. You have to get above this 1332. If you don't get above that, I see no reason in playing with it. You have to clear where you're at right now. What would also concern me is at this point, do I really want to buy this where I'm sitting right on the 200 week? I'd probably wait for the 200 week moving average to clear before I get involved with it. That would be the first thing that I would say. So consider that. MNDY Monday. So this looks like one that just went public. So let's take a look at what's going on. Yep. So let's just take a look at what's going on here. This looks like a new issue. Let's get rid of these indicators and just look at price. You know, when you have something new like this, you really don't need much more besides learning how to read price. Very clean, you know, I mean, here's your level, right? There's your support. Bonk, bonk, bonk. Couldn't break it. We broke it, and then we rejected it again. Filled this gap. You know, I'm really reaching here because there's very little going on here. But you have a wedge there, and if you break that wedge, this is your first stop, and this is where your second stop is. So to 220, so we take that out. We can move this out of the way. So these are really your levels, actually 217, 218. I see no reason to be in this. If we go and take a look at the 15-minute chart, yeah, I mean, you're just straight down. I mean, you're just straight selling all day. So there's no reason. They spiked you up to get everybody all excited. And then they reversed it on the second 15-minute bar, right, after they suckered people in. Then you have this evening star pattern that doesn't finish. Run it back up to this level right here, right? And this time you think it's really going to go, and they pop it over again. Too many games here. I'd be really careful playing this. To me, it's just very clear that somebody's trying to get out and trigger retail into making movements. I mean, that's all this was. They trigger it to get it up, and then people buy it, and then they just slam it down. So MNDY I would avoid completely. So MOXC. Well, this looks like one we looked at before. So, yep, you can see this rise. I mean, I don't think you're going anywhere past this 27, 28 level. I don't know enough. I don't know if we're waiting for news. It's not very exciting to me. I mean, the time to be in this was $10, right? Back here before they started running it up and gunning it. Right here, I'm at the upper end of this channel. Maybe there's 4 or 5 points before I clear that and go up. So I would avoid this. It's not something that I'm going to chase. NVIDIA, I really wanted to cover. You know, this is one that we've been in the newsletter since $6.99. Also, that there's a free copy of the newsletter that gives you the updates on what's going on. It's completely free. It comes out on Wednesdays, and there's a link in the description for it. So it's if you want to kind of follow along with what we're doing, that's where to start, in my opinion. But let's just talk about this. So we get good news today. We get an upgrade. You get a price target raise, right? And what happens? We got the first red bar we've had in 7 days. That is telling you that you're getting toppy. So to me, you probably have another 10, 15 points here. But when you see today's action and you look at it here, look at this on a 15-minute chart. We can get rid of these indicators. This is your first 15-minute bar. Looks like you're going to break up, and then what does it do? It just reverses, takes out that low, and just trades down all day. Maybe tomorrow you get your lift, but I just don't see that happening. So for me, it's a hard pass. You know, it's not something that I'm going to tell you that you need to be running in and buying here. I definitely liked it a heck of a lot more on Friday than I liked it today. I expected with that kind of, news, when you see positive news like that, you see a muted move, it means that you're tired and probably due for a rest. When you have good, solid news, you should really have follow through, and we just didn't. So that would be my concern with it. As far as the newsletter goes, our target was, I believe, 825, and I moved it to 850. I still believe it's going to go there, but it might come down a little bit first before it gets there. Right now, what you could be looking for is, let's look at the 8-day moving average. And let's zoom in on this. So I would be surprised if you close below the 8-day, right? So that puts you right around 800. So that could happen. You could come back down and test this around 800. That is realistic. So it would not be a big deal and the trade wouldn't be broken. But I still think you're going to see 850. It might take a little bit longer. And I definitely wouldn't be chasing it up here or trying to buy options in it. I'd be very careful. P-ton, let's just see what's going on. I know people like the name. I have no volume going on the past 3-4 days. So I tend to stay away from things like that until they set up and then they give me volume and then I can get involved. Now, let's zoom in on here because there's a lot going on here on Peloton. See how I can't stay above the 8, but I'm trying, right? I'm really trying there. But this green bar and this bounce off this 200-day lets me know that this may stay. So if this stays, then I'm setting up here for a trade. So there may be a trade here if we get above this higher high in the 8-day to trade up. This might be a spot to buy this for those that are interested in looking at it. I like this one. And I like that spot, but you'd really have to see that break out. And maybe that's why the volume's drying up because nobody's selling it because now you're near that 200-day, right? I mean, you have to think like that a little bit. Like, why am I not seeing volume? Well, maybe I'm not seeing volume because people want to see if it respects it. Okay, it respected it. That means the sellers don't sell and people buy it because now they have a level that they can use as a stop. And that's not a crazy stop, right? I mean, 119 3/4. And you're at 123, a 4-point stop on something like this that's been just a monster winner for people. That's not a crazy stop at all. So that might be something to consider. QFIN, I'm just going to say I think it's great that you have bounced off this 50-day moving average. But, if the Chinese regulators have an issue with a taxi company, you think they're going to have an issue with fintech companies? So I believe that's the kind of the thought process here and why these across the board got hit a little harder. You know, QFIN was only down 3.92%. Now, if you go across the board and you look at Futu had a much, much tougher day, didn't it? Right? I mean, we closed at 160, right? And we went to 140 today. I mean, that's obviously worse than, you know, the 4% we just saw. And we're going to cover Tiger in a bit, but let's get rid of this so we can just take it in context, right? I mean, you were sitting right on that level and they gap you down. The reason for that is because of that DIDI news. If regulators are going to regulate anything, they're going to regulate financial companies. I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, that's the most regulatory of all the regulatory, you know, more than any other industry. We might have regulatory laws against, you know, energy and things like that, but the ones that they really get their hands in and get very interested in is, you know, finance. So that's why you saw these levels come in. But let's get back to QFIN now. I do like this. I do like that you hit the 50-day and stopped. And I do like that you have above average volume when you did that. So we gapped down and closed. So this tells you a couple things. I just showed you FUTU and I just showed you Tiger. So if you were to look at these charts, and I try to do this to give like little lessons. See how that one is above it, but red and below that line, okay? Below the 50-day, and then you come here. See how this one's sitting on that and looks like it broke? Okay, so which one was down the least, turned green on the day, and never broke its 50-day moving average? QFIN. Which one has the highest potential of having the highest relative strength of the three? QFIN. So if you're going to play in this space, QFIN. So hopefully that's clear. Hopefully that wasn't exhausting for me to get that point across. But with the gap down like this turning green, look, you want to play this? Go for it. 35.10. You have to get over 35.10. And then you're going to be facing all these other little levels. But we can get rid of them all. And I'll just tell you, if you clear 35.10, you have a really nice gap down here, gap down here. This was probably your exhaustion, right? And so it would be very realistic. And I'll throw in Bollinger Bands in a moment. And, you know, maybe I'll link that Bollinger Band video to this today in like a card or something so that people can watch this. But this is a perfect Bollinger Band trade snapback. And this is really when Bollinger Bands work best. After an exhaustive move and then a reversion back to the mean. The mean is usually the 20-day. I use a 21. We're splitting hairs. It's pointless to argue. It's like 10 cents. So, I mean, you can see when I lay them next to one another, right? So, I mean, we can argue about them, but what's the point? So what you're going to do is get above this, flip back into this, and then you probably head to here, 41, 42. So is there a trade there? Yes. I was asked about this today by a gentleman, and I said, you need to wait. We need to get above that level. Get me above that level, and I can see why you would have an interest. Now, let's just look at, I don't have to worry about earnings to when? September? August 24th? Yeah, this works. QFIN works and could be a trade. I like the idea a lot, and I could see why somebody would be interested in this. So sorry about that. I just had to write something down while I'm thinking about it. So let's just go here real quick and keep going. So this is one that's new that people have been watching and talking about. And we're going to get rid of all this for a moment. So this is exactly what you want to see with a new issue. And I'm just going to walk you through why. So this is your opening bar. Okay. So the opening bar comes in, sells down, right? Washes everybody out. They all think it's over, right? And all I have is this data. So that's why I'm using a 15-minute chart. This is going to tell me, just so we're clear, like this tells me absolutely nothing. It tells me I have a chart here and then I broke out, which is great. congratulations, but that doesn't give me levels. There's 5, 10 points in between each of these bars. I need levels to determine if it makes sense to get in there. So you can see how you then got right to that level, right? July 2nd, couldn't get above it, got above it at the end, boom, and then just went, right? Okay. Closed, gapped over it. What happens on the 6th? You gap over this on the 6th, and what happens? You retest it, and then you broke it. So this is a key level. Why? Because we broke above this bar on this bar. That's why it's a key level. And then just to kind of solidify that, see how it held here? Right on that spot. So you break out, retest, form a little morning star, bounce off of it, go higher, fail to get above that, and then go from there. You see the evening star pattern that completed. Then here's your morning star pattern that completed. So you can kind of see these patterns and how they can play out, how you could have just whacked this thing around all day for a couple points. So looking at this, what level do we have to watch? I need to get above 50-40 before I would even be interested in taking a position. Okay, what would our stop be? Well, if we use the daily, and this is, I'm going to just explain why we're looking at multiple time frames. If I use the daily, I'd be using this. There's no way I'm going to use that. What I'm going to use is I'm going to use this. And for standard practices and looking at charts, you need at least 30 bars for it to have any level of statistical significance. So if you don't have 30 bars, it's kind of pointless. That's why we're down to 15 minutes. So 50-40 is what I have to break. We break that, and you may have my interest. Overlay this with indicators. They look great, right? I mean, they're new. They're going up. What else are they going to look like? I'm more interested in the volume, the acceleration of the volume right here, and how we're respecting this line and how every breakout is met by buying. That's what I want to see, and I think that looks great. On to the next one. So let's keep going here. So Starbucks, I'm kind of surprised that they're just not moving further ahead. I mean, you would think that they just killed it, with the drive-through during the pandemic, but it seems to be having some issues. Now, here's your trend. Broke out of it, and you're broke above this, which is really what you want to see. But see that right there? That's just so that we got above that level. So you could, doing that, you could argue that you're setting up to go to this 119 level. I mean, it's really 4 points, right? So the question becomes, do you really even want to play around with this for 3 or 4 points until you get through that? I don't know that I would, and I'm just going to show you why I'm saying that. Right? So I have this channel right here, and I don't know if that's going to be the dominant channel or not. It kind of looks like it's going to be. Hold on 1 second. Let's see. So, yeah, kind of is, right? I mean, here you are. Here we go. Pops out a couple times, comes back in. So, I mean, it does respect this line. So, to me, I'm still out of the channel, right? So, what's my hurry? I'm more interested in popping back in the channel, getting above 119 to then take me up to this level, right? So, I think that's your trade. Get through the 119 level and then look for it to go from there. Other than that, I would just hold off. This is one we've been in the newsletter for a while, got in at 1335. Obviously, we're going to have to raise that stop up again today based upon what's transpired. But overall, we talked about this, right? And we're just going to go over this here, get rid of this volume. You see the volume's above average. No reason for it to take up space. Let's just talk about this. This is what we've been waiting for. We had this wedge. We've been knocking on this door, right, to break over and over, and it didn't break. We had to stop out the one day, and then we had the wedge form, but we needed it to do something. We needed it to confirm, and this is one of those reasons why I always say that you have to wait for the close. And I understand that's easier said than done, especially when you're long something and you're up 100 points on it and you're watching. So maybe you don't wait for the close. Maybe you get stopped out and then you just re-enter the trade. Well, if you were looking to re-enter, I've been talking about this wedge forever. Well, for about 2 weeks. So as soon as you broke that wedge, that was it. You broke that wedge and you broke this 1496 and you're above the 8, right? So what are you waiting for? I mean, there's your trade, right? Look at this bar. It couldn't be any more perfect. The open is the low, the high is the close. Where's this going? Higher. I mean, to me, this is pretty obviously going higher. Now, we're obviously going to have to see how we play out tomorrow, but I could see how somebody would buy this at the end of the day and just look for a trade. For me, we've been in it for a while now, and now we're up 200 points in it. Just leave it alone. I don't see any reason why we're not getting to that 1800 level that we've set as our target. I just don't see it. And this is a clear break, and it's clearly telling you which way we're heading. It's just going to take a little time. Just let it do its thing. And if you're not in this at this point and you wanted to be in it, you just have to wait now. Just wait till you clear 1553. And I still think that's actionable because there's 300 points here. And if you use the breakout bar low, you're at 1468, right? So you're looking at, you're going to risk 90 for 300. So you're still at 3-1. You're not at, where we were before, where you were at 5-1. That's where it really was appealing to me. But you're still at 3-1. There's nothing wrong with that trade. Some people don't mind those kinds of risk versus returns. So I would still consider it if I didn't have a position. So let's go to Snap. So what we have going on here is we broke out and came back down and tested. Did we break anything? No. Did we break this little wedge line? No. Did we break the 8-day? No. There's nothing wrong with it. Gave us a little head fake today. I thought today was the day. Again, I've said this a million times, it's a very abusive relationship with this stock and you just got to deal with it. But eventually, I really do think this is going to go and I really do think it's going to break out. I really like this line right here. I like how we got above it the one time, failed, and then you can just see us just riding it. And you can't keep pushing against this and not break it. It's just a matter of time. Look at, we don't have earnings for a while. So if we get above here, this has a lot of room on it, a lot of room. So, for a little stop here, 65, 4 points for the opportunity to get in this for a 20, 25 point move, to me, makes all the sense in the world. And this is on my short list. I'll just leave it at that. Tiger was one we talked about before. Look, this is really simple in how I view this. Okay, we don't even need these. See this line? See this line from back here? You were holding, you're not holding anymore. You're straight through it, gapping down and below everything on this flag. So I would not be surprised to see some of these continue. And, we're going to really have to watch here. I like the QFIN trade, but it'd be nothing for this to go to that level, that 1734 level. Nothing. So, and that level might actually coincide with this. Yeah, you're right there, right? It's right around the same level. Let's just call it 1750. I don't see any reason why that can't happen. Zero. It's just basically going down. The weekly flag has failed, right? The week's not over. I got it. We have 3 days left. But if this fails, which I think it's going to, I'm going to here. So this is not the one that I would play. The one that I would play would be QFIN out of these. If I was in this, I would be gone. Failed. Now we know why it failed. Obviously, somebody knew this was coming, right? Look at the selling in Tiger 2 days before, 3 days before. Look at Futu and the selling. Somebody knew that this was coming, and they knew that it was going to affect these names. So this is not rocket science, not even a little bit. So just consider that. Let's just keep going through them. So next, Tesla was one that we were in at 620. 667 was the stop. The trade's over. It's busted. Here's your flag. You broke out. And now you're below that trend line. Well, you're actually sitting right on, well, you're below it. So trade's over. That's it. This is not something I'm going to go near. I don't know. the major reason for this today was absolutely swamped today's trading and just answering questions. So I didn't really go through all the news yet on a lot of these positions. I just use price, just to be blunt. Like, it doesn't matter to me the reason why it's triggering. If it's triggering and I want out, I'm out. And that's how you have to look at things. Let me rephrase that. That's how I look at things. You can look at things however you want to. There's a million different ways to trade. So don't let anybody tell you any differently. So you see how you're heading right to this. I mean, I'll get another shot at it. It's not going out of business, but maybe they're worried about regulatory concerns with China and something retaliatory. I have no idea. I know that thinking that process today had me watching this and waiting for a bounce in this. And there was a day trade in it today, but other than that, there was a real quick trade. But other than that, right, you can just see that little move right here. But what else was there? Nothing. So if that's the case, why isn't this moving? Right? So I don't know. There's something else going on there that you just have to watch. And I'm not sure what it is, but we're out of Tesla and we'll watch and wait. Let's get rid of these indicators for a moment. I'm in this at $78. I still have a position in this. My stop is 74. If it hits it, I'm gone. Look, this is driving me as nutty as it's probably driving everybody else. But we're just sitting on this level, and it's getting tighter and tighter. I don't see sense doing anything. Just sit, watch, and wait. Let it tell you that it's had enough. And that could be tomorrow, right? I don't know when that is. But I do not see, I'm not crazy that we're below the 8-day moving average, obviously. But let's see what happens with this and go from there. But I'm not really crazy with the action. I wish it acted like crowd today, but it didn't. And this is what I have. So this is what we have to deal with. But I don't think that trade's over. And that's the point of me showing this one. I want to show things that are actionable. I'm not crazy I'm below the 8-day, but I bounced right off this line today. And I'm still in this flag. Like, if you get rid of all this, you see the flag's still there. So I'm not getting rid of it yet. So Twitter. So you broke out here, you filled this gap, and then you broke out. And I understand why people are interested in it. I just expect their earnings to be, somewhat not good again. That is the best way to say it. They come out July 22nd. I'm in no hurry to be in this for earnings. I mean, we've seen what's transpired. They're trading very much like a media company as far as active users. And if you look at mainstream media right now, they are just bleeding numbers on people who are watching. And I think the same thing is kind of happening with Twitter, frankly. So I don't think they're going to have the same kind of numbers. I think everyone's kind of over the news being collated the way it is. It's just an opinion. It's not a political opinion. I just think that people are gravitating towards other sites to get information now. But if you look at that, I think that means that, down the line, the numbers are going to get hit. But what do we do now? I don't know how you can get involved with this. Every single time we get above this 71.57, we reject. You've had 3 or 4 days above it here. We couldn't get it above here. So before I would even think of doing this, I'd want to see like maybe a weekly close or something like that above that level. I had one before here and I thought it was going to go and then it didn't. Now you have this wacky thing that broke out here, right? We can actually draw this up all the way, right? And pull this down. But now I got this little wacky pattern and I'm trying to break out, but I can't even get over a higher high. So I would just be very, very cautious with this. Let's go to this so you can even go back further and understand where I'm going with this. So this is the monthly on Twitter. So this is from 2014. Okay. You tried to get above it, failed, came back down, hit 51, bounced, got above, and now you took off right on the monthly. You're trying, you're really trying, but you're going to have to see how this goes. I would not be, I'm not going to hold my breath on this. I see the move. I understand it, but I'm not going to hold my breath. I need to start getting above some levels before I would really consider this. And, one of them's right here, right where it is. Close above there at least to start. 70.43. I've given a bunch of levels on this, and I would just tell you to be very careful. You do not, I would not, if you look at the events, get rid of the indicators. I mean, here's earnings. Then this one, for some reason, it went up even though the earnings weren't great. And then this one, we obviously got hammered. And here you are with earnings again. Here you are with earnings again. So, I would just be very cautious there. Uber, I like. I'm waiting for it to break out here. And you see how I'm going to zoom in. See how we keep riding this line? We tried the other day, got above there today. They own 12%, 12.8% of DIDI, which is a great company, right? It should be around for a very long time. But, the stock's going to get hit with that news. I like how I'm completely congested in here on these averages. The 50-day held, all of them are holding except the 8. I kind of like that. So I'm congested in here and I'm against this wedge line. Something's got to give. So I really do. I like this. So let's see how it plays out. But what we're looking for is a push over that level. UPWK was one that I had on the top 10 list to watch. And, today it just really didn't do anything. I know some people were looking at it for a trade, and you can see that trade right here. So you came back down, tested this low, and then bounced. But you'd have to look at it on a 15-minute chart. So let's get rid of these indicators. So, essentially what you did was come down, right, rally, come down, test, hold, and then go. So there was a trade there, but, it's not the biggest trade in the world. I like how you're holding this level, and I think you're fine. I just think you're going to trade around for a little bit. You're trying to break out of this. You can see it, right? Trying. So eventually it'll give, I think. Wish, I still like that long term, this trade, this UPWK. Just have to wait for it. So Wish, this just, to me, that's just, no matter how you try to paint this, how much I want it to look good, it just doesn't. Let's get rid of these indicators. You can see how the volume's just completely gone away. People have forgotten about it. Now you're holding this 1151 and you tried a reversal bar today, but you did not, right? You opened here, went higher, which is exactly what you want to see. This is why sometimes it's best to wait for the close. And then what happens? This. So this is not exactly something that you want to be in, right? So you have to wait for this to actually have a higher high close before I would consider buying it. If I was in this and it broke 1151, I would be gone. I would not be in it. So this I like. This one escaped me today. So 114.20 broke right out here and just kept on going. Look at these indicators. It's like textbook stuff. It just looks beautiful. And there's not really much to say about it, right? This is the weekly on it. It's just classic. So you have a channel right here that you're probably going to stay in and just ride. And I think that's where you're heading. I think you're heading right to that level, right? Which gets you to about 145, 147. It's a nice cup. You might come down, form a handle, and then go. I'm not sure yet. We're going to have to see. I wish you had more volume. But I like this trade, this Wish, or WK rather, I'm sorry. I like this a lot. Workiva. You don't need both of these. We can close one out. So if you find these videos helpful, if you could do me a favor and please click the like button. My goal is to try and get in front of as many people as humanly possible, just to show them what it takes to be truly successful. Like or share it, either one. But I think there's a lot of valuable lessons in here for people that are trying to learn how to trade besides just getting ideas. So see how you're riding this line right here on Zebra? This is one from before that was in the top 10 videos. I'd recommend you watch the top 10 videos, and at least 4 weeks out, you should have a watch list of all of them and see what's going on with them. But look at this. This is just classic. And, our level was 521. We got in it, and we've been in it ever since. I really haven't been, following up with it too much because there's nothing really to say about it. I mean, it's just leave it alone. If you're in it, leave it alone. I think you're heading up to this level. So let's see how it does. I really don't think there's a darn thing to do about it. I think it looks excellent. I mean, how do you get back in it? You have to bite the bullet and buy it and realize that you're paying up. You know, for those that are thinking about trying to buy it, I mean, that's all you can do here, right? Textbook breakout, textbook retest. I mean, look, always gives you a second chance to get back in. Here you go. I shouldn't say always, but there's always that opportunity, right? And then boom, test forms a hammer, goes the next day. There's your little hammer bar, right? And then it goes. ZM looks great. Did exactly what I needed it to do today. So we've been in this since 368. I know that people are saying, oh, you could have seen this coming sooner. I mean, I'm going to be blunt. I don't know how anybody could rationally have bought this sooner looking at this chart unless you're buying a pullback buyer, right? If you're a pullback buyer, you could have looked at this and said, okay, I'm going to buy it here and here, right? But you're basically throwing a dart against the wall and seeing if it sticks. I mean, that's what you're doing. You're using this level and you're using this and tying it in like that on that reversal bar. Now, if there's no earnings there, there's nothing. You're just taking a shot. That's not really what I do. So I would argue that you really need to see, yes, you need to test these levels, but you really need to see confirmation, especially something like this. This gave us confirmation. This broke the major downward trend line. Then we had an up day, and that was it. And that was enough for, maybe we could have bought it a day or two sooner, but I'd rather have confirmation sometimes, especially when you're having a huge downward trend. When you have a multi-month downward trend, you're going to want some levels of confirmation. If you don't get that, what you're going to wind up with is something you don't like this. Pops, 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 right? How many times do you have to get hurt? So sometimes paying up is not the worst thing. Now today, closing above the 200-day, to me, I don't really see any reason, and we can overlay this and just see if I'm right. So, and then let's just go to these other indicators and let's click off of them. And let's just use volume by price for a moment and close this up, and we'll get rid of this now. So, and let's swing this down. So I'm above the point of control. I'm above the VWAP, and my shelf is starting to get thinner in here. Okay, to me, I think that we're heading to 440 fairly quickly. So that's my bet on this one, and we'll see if it plays out. But I do like it. I still like the name. If you were to play this, again, we're in at 368. But if I was to play this, I would just play it off this level. Close below the 200-day you're out. Right, that puts you right at 380, 390. I mean, it's 10 points. That's nothing on a $400 stock. So that's it as always. If you need me for anything, just reach out. Either email arete@aretetrading.net, or there's a link for Twitter in the description, or just comment here and just let me know what you're thinking and if there's a way that I can help. That's it. Everyone have a great day.